My coping is totally comedy, and I think it's like I can talk about experiences I've had, and then I say them on stage in the form of a joke, and you hear a room full of people laugh, and that goes, "Oh, that's healing. Okay, we've all kinda been through this." Like, a lot of other
Laughter
women
is
in
the
here
great
didn't
medicine,
stick
and
up
it's
for them.
also the best
Yeah.
way to spread truth around. Sorry, I
Mm.
didn't mean to cut you
Oh,
off.
yeah, and droplets. Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
So it's so strange because, like, for me, I was, like, very, like, I'm not having sex. Whatever it was, I don't know if it was the sex ed in my high school or middle school or what, or the fact that they made us carry around an egg or, like, a baby, and with it I had to hide it would cry periodically. I just would shove it in the closet and put sweaters over it. I'd be like, "Shut up, baby." And, so for some reason, like, I was very good at holding out on sex, but, like, the other stuff, was happening far more than it should have. And it was this whole like, oh, well, you got to be cool. You got to get guys to like you. This is what you do. This is what everyone else is doing this. And it's funny. And I make jokes about it because it's like, I was 14 the first time I went down on a guy, I had no clue. I make a joke about it that I like had like this whole head pushing joke. And I was like, all right, get ready. This is about to be the worst blowjob you've ever had, buddy. Buckle up. So it's good to be able to, like, make jokes about it, but, like, looking back, I would've been like, "No, it's good, I'm good," like,
Mm.
drive me back home, but again, it's like, I didn't see my mom sticking up for herself with my dad. I never I had no examples,
Mm.
um, of women being like, yeah, there was no one now it seems like there's too much of a conversation about feelings. Back then, 80s, 90s, there was very little at least happening in my family, conversation happening about, like, what's going on in school, what do it's just very little. It was very much like everyone had a house key, you let yourself in. Nobody in my family, I think, had the sex talk. It's just we just figured it all out. So, but I wouldn't go around saying like, "Oh, I was a victim." Like, was I taken advantage of several times? Absolutely. But like, I think it could have been worse. And it's like,
It
for
was funny.
me, coping is through comedy.
I interviewed Giannis Papas the other day, and I was asking him if he thought, that there was a lot of crossover between comedians and, trauma survivors, especially, as children, sort of. Because I was like, I don't know how I ended up with so many comedy followers and vice versa, but I feel like a lot of survivors of child sexual abuse, molestation, human trafficking, sexual assault, and even in domestic violence tend to like comedy. And I feel like comedians, I don't know, there's something there. And I was like, is it that a lot of comedians are trauma survivors? Not all, of course, but I just think comedians have such a cool, unique relationship. And he was like, yeah, we laugh at the pain, we laugh through the pain. And I think that it's not the best answer for everyone all the time, but it sure as heck helps me.
Because
Well, they have the
sometimes you
thickest
wanna
skin.
talk about it in a way that is not so serious. Like, sometimes people are not comfortable going deep. Some people have repressed shit they keep in for a lifetime. So,
Yeah.
the humor is just a little bit of a pressure release valve. It's a little bit of you're letting some air out, whether you're ready to talk about it or not, but if that's happened to you, that's a good way for you to start processing it, is through laughing about it. Like, you're just releasing tension, everybody else is releasing tension. That's why I really love comedy, is I can get on stage and almost like make fun of myself. And if it makes somebody else feel less alone or less weird or bad or, regretting decisions, then great. Like, that's absolutely what I want to do, is make
You're
people
so good, Chrissy. I'm so proud of you. Your career has just exploded and you're
Mhm.
killing it. And
Congrats
Aw.
on number 1, by the way. Are you still on number 1 right now?
Yes,
Nice.
on Amazon. I can't believe it. Like, I was hoping for one day, and it's been like 10 now, which is
oh my gosh,
crazy.
I can't, I'm like,
All thanks to viewers like you.
it is, but I think it's so crazy. Like, I remember because it's been really fun, because I feel like I sort of came on the scene and then it's been so much fun watching people that have supported me or that I just vibe with like explode. Like pop in, popularity or whatever. Crigler was already popping out here, so that's not a fair
Yeah.
Crigler been
You are
popping.
already popping. You are already popping. But like
Thank you.
certain people like yourself, Chrissy's like just exploded in the time frame that I was around, and I was like, whoa, this is like watching a rocket ship, and I'm really excited for you. I think it's freaking
Thank
awesome.
you. If anything, it like just coming off like this small little tour, I was just saying I was in North Carolina and Georgia and Florida, did really only 3 shows, like a pretty small little mini tour. But I know what it felt like 3 years ago when I was around touring, even like 2 years ago. And there's like, okay, there's like a noticeable more chunk of people at these shows, and
For you.
a noticeable chunk of like people hanging out after, wanting to go and drink after, wanting autographs. And it's like, so that's meaningful because it's like you can just watch numbers go up on Twitter. You can watch watch your viewer numbers. It's like that's all just
Numbers.
stuff on a screen. It's like
Ones and
sometimes,
zeros.
and I don't know, like Frank sometimes will notice numbers and charts, and he's looking at that. Maybe that's a guy brain thing, but for me, when I see people, that's what I notice, and I get to talk to people afterwards. I'm like, oh wow, like this is And then when people come up to me after the show and hug me and like, you helped me through the last year of my life. There was a guy at the show in North Carolina. He's like, I buried 5 people in the last 18 months, like you and all the, Friday Night Tights guys and all these other shows I listened to helped me through it. I was like, I'm going to cry. And then he just was like, I have to go. I have to get up early for work tomorrow. I'm like, you don't want a shot? You don't want to, oh God, and it really like, it touched me. And I'm just like, wow, I'm not even the fucking best, funniest comedian. It's like sometimes you feel like you don't deserve it. I don't know. But then when you're with people physically and they're telling you that you've helped them in some way, then you're like, fuck, this is awesome. Like it makes it worth it.
I think that's really amazing. And I know so many, I know the way that comedy can impact survivors. I've just really seen it a lot lately. I don't know, it's something about Twitter. There's an interesting crossover there. So I've just seen and had a lot of survivors reach out to me and say, oh, I think this is, cool that you're collaborating with this person or that person. And, I've just seen the way it lifts survivor spirit. And the other thing too, I'm also trying to show other survivors that I can laugh. Does that make sense? But you will help people like in unique ways, Chrissy. And I think one thing that you did that was real sharp, and I would love to, because now I have my own podcast. So now I'm back to ground zero with my own podcast.
Yeah, you do.
It's like 70 views on YouTube. But I'm popping on Odyssey.
You're popping.
I'm popping on Odyssey, and I'm popping on Apple and Spotify, but YouTube not so much. But one thing I think you did really well, Crigler also, of course, you were like grinding every freaking day, like reaching out to the good guests, reaching out. You like really during the pandemic just super went full in on interviews and that whole thing. And I think one thing, because I'm on the struggle bus right now. I can barely pay anyone to watch my podcast. Like how many did you guys have to do before you saw anything? Before you saw anything?
You mean like numbers? You mean like viewers per se? Or are you talking about like social media following or like?
No, I got the social media. Social media, I'm good, but even though Twitter, of course, that throttles me down to a nub, but social media, I don't care so much. But it's just like with the podcast and doing what you guys are doing, like there had to be times where you wanted to give up. Like, why did you keep going?
Yeah. Oh,
There
yeah.
still is.
Because I set an expectation for myself. It's like I decided in May of 2020. It's like I'm not gonna be, and I almost talked myself out of doing a podcast. Like I started in January of 2020, and I for months, maybe even a full year, was saying every comedian's got a podcast. It's the last thing this world needs. It's another comedian with a podcast, because most comedians do a once a week podcast and they talk about very insular shit in the comedy world. And it's like, it's great if you're a comedy nerd, but it's like, it's hard to get people on. It's hard to have a wide reach with that. And so I kind of like decided and like, talking about with Frank and like what I want to do and who I want to be or whatever. And I just made the decision like May 2020, like I'm going to do 4 times a week, no matter what. I'm doing more. If I do once a week, I'm just going to be like everybody else. Let me do 4 times a week. Let me try to keep it up. And I've been able to. And it's just like, no matter what, like even when I'm on the road, even during the last week, I was on the road doing shows. I had to still record podcasts and put them out from my hotel room because it's like I've set this expectation. And maybe once or twice a snafu happened and I couldn't put something out. But then I'd be like, all right, well, then now this one has to go out Sunday. Or this one has to go out Saturday. And it just being consistent is such a huge part of success.
Definitely
I've
it is.
noticed.